So the other day I was doing a live and someone left a question that really stopped me in my tracks and made me think. I answered the question on the fly, but after that live went off, I had plenty of time to sit and think about that question, and I thought, yeah, I could definitely dedicate an entire video to that question. I don't remember the person's name that asked, but they left me a nice tip and they asked this question. They said, Brando, when you're talking about MAGA, are you referring to the extreme MAGA or just anyone who voted for Trump? Now, my first reaction to that question was, what's the difference? Because I do view MAGA as a radical right wing of the Republican Party. They are the extreme right in my mind. And anyone that voted for Donald Trump voted for that extremism. And they voted to enable that extremism, whether they themselves really meant to or not. The whole question kind of puzzled me, honestly, because I said to myself, this is probably coming from someone who voted for Trump, but yet they probably don't believe in all of the extreme things that he stands for, which tells me that they probably weren't paying attention, or they were just voting for him because that's what Papa does. You know, my granddaddy voted Republican all his life. I guess that's what I am. Or my granddaddy'd roll over in his grave if he thought I was voting for a Democrat. At least Trump ain't a Democrat, so I guess I'll go ahead and vote for him. I don't think he'll do all that stuff. I don't think he'll do that stuff Brando's been talking about on his channel. But you're okay with him talking about doing it? That doesn't raise a red flag to you. That doesn't sound off an alarm. You don't stop and pause and go, wait a minute, that's not what we were founded on. So if someone did vote for Trump, and let's say they really aren't that extreme, or maybe they really don't want to see Project 2025 put in place, maybe they don't want to see any of those things, they still went along with it and voted to enable it, and now here we are. So if I'm going to be brutally honest with you, those people are actually more annoying to me than the Trump supporters, because at least with the Trump supporters, the extreme MAGAs, you know where they stand. I mean, you know exactly what they believe, and you know exactly where they're at. But to the ones who sat back and voted for it for whatever other reason and didn't really look into it and really didn't listen to anything anyone had to say, and now they're having this slow waking up of like, oh, wait, you mean he was serious? He was really going to do that? You mean, wait a minute, you mean the price of eggs ain't going to come down? No, they weren't, and we were over here trying to tell you. We were over here the entire time trying to explain how these things worked. And I've always said, I didn't go to college. I'm not the most well-educated dude. I'm not. But I've went out of my way to educate myself the best that I can and understand things and how they work. And I knew the entire time that Joe Biden was in office that he wasn't the one setting the prices at the gas station. I knew he wasn't the one setting the prices at McDonald's. He wasn't the one setting the prices in a Walmart. So that's why you didn't hear me bitching about the grocery bill. Although, to be honest with you, every time I went to the grocery store, I felt it. I realized this sucks. This grocery bill is outrageous. This absolutely sucks. But I also realized that it was something people were feeling around the world. And I also realized that Donald Trump couldn't, no matter how much he promised to get it all done on day one. I realized that's not how things work. And Donald Trump is out there. You can find the quotes. He's out there saying, oh, what? Just wait. When I get elected on day one, you'll see prices start dropping then. They'll drop drastically. It'll start on day one. You'll see a difference the minute I walk through the door. And then when he was pressed as president-elect, he suddenly backtracks. He goes, well, you know, it's hard. I want to get it down, but they got it up, so it's hard for me to bring it down. And people sitting back going, wait, you mean he can't bring it down? Yeah, that's what we've been sitting here trying to say. But people, I'm sure there were a lot of reasonable people, otherwise reasonable people, who just didn't pay attention to everything that was going on. They went about their day. They didn't get into politics. I hear people say that all the time. Oh, I don't get into politics. Well, you need to. You need to get into it. You need to study it. And you need to realize that whether you want to be or not, you're in this conversation. Whether you want to be in politics or not, you are in the conversation. When someone says, I don't talk politics, yeah, you do. And you did when you voted for Trump, even if you weren't the most extreme person in the world. You still voted for it. And you still showed us that you wasn't paying attention. And that's pretty disturbing to me. I go back to something my buddy, Denver Riggleman, said when I had him on my podcast. He said, an uninformed vote, a misinformed vote counts the same as another one. They all count the same. A stupid vote counts the same. And that's exactly what we saw happen. But I can't split the two up and say that part of MAGA is extreme and then you got reasonable Trump supporters. Because if someone voted for Trump and they had a reasonable bone in their body, they didn't take time out to truly pay attention to what it was that was going on. And I guarantee you, if I was sitting on a bar stool talking to the reasonable ones, and I said to them, so, are you okay with your daughter not having the right to the health care that she needs? Do you really think that the government should be allowed to come into your daughter's doctor's office and make decisions for her? I bet you a good chunk of them would say, no, I don't agree with that. And if you said to them, are you for him imprisoning media and putting social media influencers in prison and putting lawsuits against them? Are you for that? And are you for gay marriage being completely done away with? Are you really for all of the immigrants being deported? Are you really as against trans people as you say you are? Because I can't count the people who will say, man, I just voted for Trump for his policies, but I got a trans kid, or my niece or my nephew is trans. But you went to the poll and you voted for what you said was his policy and a cheaper grocery bill. And when you did, even though you may have meant for it to be reasonable in your mind, what it said to your trans niece or nephew or son or daughter, what it said to them was, he doesn't really care about me and he's not been paying attention, because I promise you, they've been paying attention. I promise you, women out there have been paying attention. I promise you, marginalized groups have been paying attention. And those of us who put ourselves on the line each and every day to sit here and have a voice and have a platform, we've been paying attention. We've been paying attention long and hard to what was being said. Now, guys, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Now here we are. And I sometimes wonder what would happen if suddenly I was in handcuffs being led away on national TV. Would any of my buddies chime in and go, shit, I didn't mean for that to happen. That wasn't what I really didn't think he would do that. Well, we tried to tell you that that's what they had every intention on doing. So I don't understand now how that people can backtrack and say, I didn't think he meant it. The fact that he said it should have been alarming enough. And even if he does none of the things that he says he's going to do, let's say that we all keep our platforms, nobody gets a lawsuit. Let's say everything just goes slow and really doesn't. Let's say he doesn't follow through on any of his promises over the next 4 years. He still said those things. He still tested them out on an audience and learned that the audience was okay with it. So let's say Trump doesn't do the things he says he's going to do. And let's say he doesn't allow his cabinet of chaos to go too far off the rails. Let's say it's not as bad as we all think it's going to be. He still laid the blueprint for the next person to pick it up and do it. Anybody sitting back wanting to be a dictator, wanting to rule over this country with an iron fist like he talks about doing, they sat back and watched him pave the way for it. So I said before this election, I said, if we win this thing and Kamala Harris comes out the other side, we're just going to be kicking that can down the road. These people aren't going anywhere. These people are hell-bent on doing these things. And now they've won, and they're hell-bent on doing them. And Donald Trump, when he's asked about it, says, well, I don't want to do those things. I really don't want to do those things, but they'll look into it. Yeah, that's because they've already been instructed on what to do, and they know what to do, and they have every intention of doing it. Go watch, I'm not going to sit here and roll the clips of the sleaze bag, but go watch clips of Steve Bannon. Go watch what he has to say. Go listen to the Charlie Kirks of the world and what they really have to say from their platforms. Go listen to the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all of the MAGA extremists and see what it is they're really saying. Go listen to Elon Musk and what he really has to say, and then realize that, yeah, Trump can sit back and go, well, I never meant for any of this to happen, but I had them look into it. So I really can't tell the difference between the extreme MAGA and the reasonable MAGA, because even if someone voted for Trump who is otherwise a reasonable person and otherwise just not really tuned into politics, they still voted to enable his extremism. And I hate to say it, thanks for listening, but you are guilty by association. And I really hate to be that blunt with it, but it's just true. At the end of the day, you're guilty by association. You may not have meant for it to happen. And there very well could have been people in 1930s Germany going, I didn't think he was going to do that. Well, it should have been a red flag. It should have sounded the alarm. Because I promise you, if Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama, anyone out there that have ever said, yeah, I'll be dictator for just one day and I'll give it back to you after it's over, that would have been a massive red flag to me. If they'd have said, yeah, I'll just terminate the Constitution whenever I see fit, that would be a massive red flag to me. And I would stop and I would pause and I'd go, is this really what we want? And if I heard Biden, I'm going to bring lawsuits against journalists that disagrees with me. Huh? Really? Wait. That's not what we are. And I know there's going to be someone in the comment section now going, but he weaponized the government again. No. No, there were people out there who broke the law and were being held accountable. And there's an old Warren Zevon song that says, I fought the law and the law won. Everybody can sing that song except Trump. Trump fought the law and now has become the law, and the people that voted for it may not have meant for it to all go off the rails. But either way you slice it, they still enabled it. I truly appreciate you guys for sticking around with me, and to the person that left that comment, I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but if you weren't one of the extremists, you still enabled the extremism.